Welcome back to Behind the Bricks. I'm Brian Malika, and my guest today is a very talented man who is in a craft that I think sometimes gets lumped in with stand-up, but I want to hear it directly from him if he really believes that they are sort of two art forms that should be lumped together, or if they are very, very different, because my money's on different. Please welcome the maniac of magic, Nathan Allen. What's up, man? Welcome to the show.
How you doing? I just kind of wish you would have left talented out of that intro because you haven't seen my show.
No, I'm guessing you have a very professional web page. I imagine only talented people have those things.
Oh yeah.
Well, look, I'm glad you came on the show, man. I wanted to get your take on this because I feel that comedy and magic often get lumped together. You'll often see, magicians performing in stand-up clubs. In your opinion, are they really the same? Should they be sort of considered two very separate entities? What's your experience with it?
Well, in my mind, in my experience, magic and comedy are different. This is the major reason. I actually enjoy watching stand-up comedy.
Thank God one of us said it. All right.
I'm a fallacy. It's usually how you like watching magicians, but I'm a big fan of watching other comics.
I actually don't mind magic. When I was younger, I was way into like magic. My mom got me like magic books and stuff. I used to fucking do card tricks. I was the kid that would fucking annoy the world.
You were that guy.
I was that guy. I loved it. Like I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Even to the point when I first started doing stand up, I went to Scotty Goff, who owned the club and was kind of like a mentor to me. And I told him, I'm like, I've always kind of been into magic on some level, and I was, I toyed with the idea. I'm like, should I be one of those guys that, that kind of does a little bit of both? And he told me, he's like, look, if you want to be a comic who just does some magic tricks, then no, don't do that. That's going to be horrible. He's like, if you want to do it, you've got to commit to it sort of fully. You've got to be a magician, and you can be a funny magician, but you got to be a magician. And then that's when I bailed on it, because I really wasn't that good at magic. But I've always kind of been sort of into it and intrigued by it. How did maybe we should start with that. Why don't you tell me how you get into it, and then we'll go back to my first question.
Well, probably the same way you did. Some books in the library, so on and so forth. And I sucked at sports, so I stuck with it.
Right. You got to have a hobby, sure. Yeah. So at what point do you think, maybe I can do this? Maybe I can parlay this into some money?
That was when I was 12 years old, and I did my first paid gig.
Yeah?
I got
nice.
$15 for it, and I'm like, I'm going to be rich someday. And here I am at the age of 26, still thinking, I'm going to be rich someday.
And probably, depending on the booking, you might still get $15.
Yeah.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about it. Again, going back to the first question, in your opinion, the lumping together, are they separate? What do you think?
I think they're totally separate. I mean, I try to combine it just because it's what I enjoy doing. And there are some very, very talented, successful comedy magicians out there. There's Matt King, Michael, the Amazing Jonathan. It's a pretty impressive list of very talented and entertaining guys that very successfully combine magic and comedy. But I think for the most part, they shouldn't be lumped together. Like I said, I think comedy is way higher on the food chain, and magicians are just above mimes, I think, is the commonly accepted place.
I would say definitely above mimes, though. How do you actually see? This is why I actually think it might be harder to be a magician than a comic. At least there are comedy clubs. You know what I mean? Like I knew where to go when I wanted to start doing comedy. Where do you even start doing magic? Once you get past the 15-year-old, paid gig, when you're getting a little bit older, where do you actually take it to work your craft?
Well, I think most guys, I should say guys and gals, there are female magicians, but they start off doing, the shitty little birthday party kid shows, and some of them stick with doing those shitty little birthday party kid shows their entire lives, and I think I would put a bullet through my skull if that were the case. That's why I had to change. I kind of do what I did, but we do a lot of company parties, clubs, some festivals, and now we're doing a lot of nightclubs, small bars and taverns around the Midwest, which is a hell of a lot of fun.
Is it?
I don't have to censor myself. And,
yeah.
It's just a lot more relaxed atmosphere. I can drink on stage.
Have you worked?
I guess you could do that for a kid's birthday party, but
well, you should. You should. If anything, you should be allowed to do it there. Have you worked a lot of comedy clubs?
No, not comedy clubs proper. Here's what I think, and I could be totally wrong. I don't want to get into that and show my face until I am certain, absolutely positive that I'm ready for it and I'm going to make a killer impression.
Wow, you are wiser than most comedians. Congratulations. Maybe that comes with it. Maybe that's another difference between the two art forms. You're more well thought out. And I'm very curious as to the comics. Do you know comics that have made that scene? Because I want to know if there's like a prejudice towards magicians from comics. Because I hear comics.
So.
Yeah, I think so too. I hear comics bitch about it all the time. And the way I see it is it's just in a comic's nature. You know what I mean? Like if they're not up there performing, it's just easier to yell at, oh, well, of course a fucking magician shouldn't even be here. They'd still be bitching if it was another comic that was doing a spot in front of them. It's just, it's an easier target to yell at a magician. So yeah, I was wondering if you or maybe you've heard it in the comedy world of comics kind of looking down or giving shit to magicians.
I have to deal with it every week.
Whoops, sorry about that, by the way. Yeah, no, I don't really. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say it's totally justified. I think comedy is much more real, much more organic, if that makes sense. I mean, you actually have to write and hone your craft and get good at what you do. A magician could theoretically just walk into any magic shop, buy a shelf full of sparkly boxes, and print up business cards the next day, and all of a sudden they're a quote-unquote professional magician. I mean, that irritates me, too.
I was going to say, yes. So you guys kind of give each other shit, kind of like comics do. That there's comics that look at other comics and say, fucking hack. I can't believe this guy's headlining, with that tired act. I've heard that joke a million times. You guys must do the same thing.
Not really. If I were talking to a magician on a magic podcast right now, I wouldn't have said that because it would piss off so many people. I don't really, to tell you the truth, hang out with magicians very much. Magicians are way too social, and they share way too much. They have magic conventions where they just get together and buy props and share ideas.
That sounds awful, by the way. A magic convention sounds horrible to me.
It is. It really is. I've been to only a couple, and I don't want to go to any more in the future. It just makes everybody's presentations, it becomes incestuous. You've seen one, seen them all kind of thing. I'm sure you've seen that down in Vegas, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a fucking cookie cutter out here. It's horrible. Well, that kind of begs an interesting question. So what do you do? How do you manage to keep things fresh in your act? Because, again, as a comic, what you've heard before, and it's hard. It's hard to, to sort of break new ground and write things that no one has heard before, but at least you have the entire world, at your disposal. You know what I mean? You can, essentially, whatever your mind can think of, you can write about. When you are a magician, your options are somewhat limited. Even if you are creating your own tricks, you're still at the mercy of some other thing. You know what I mean? You have to be able to actually physically accomplish something. That's gotta stifle the creativity a little bit, doesn't it?
I don't think so. There are quite a few magicians I really do respect because they can think like that and come up with their own things, and it's really pretty impressive. My brain doesn't really work like that. It's the presentations that I put a spin on. I just try to be honest about who I am and just be myself on stage.
Interesting. So, in your opinion, then, what's sort of the pinnacle of being a magician? Because I one of the things that kind of threw me was I moved out to Vegas, and I'd seen a couple of big name magicians. Again, when I was younger, there were some of the bigger name magicians would go on tour, and I would see them. Like they'd be down at the theater at the college and things like that when I was growing up. So I had seen like Lance Burton, for example. But
he's great.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, I just, is Vegas really sort of the pinnacle of a magician's career? Like, is this what magicians aspire to do, or is there a magic circuit? I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, what is a success for you? Like, in your mind, when you visualize, where you want to be, if you could achieve sort of your dreams, what does that look like to you?
I don't know if it's Vegas.
Yeah.
I think it'd be kind of cool. Somebody told me Vegas is where acts go to die.
Amen to that.
I don't even want to be famous. I just want to be successful, financially comfortable, and have a good, solid, original act that I'm happy performing, making people laugh.
And where would those performances come, though? I guess that's what I mean. Like, where do magicians perform to be really successful if you don't get some show out in Branson or Vegas?
Well, I think corporate events are pretty solid.
Yeah, that's
round.
true.
And I guess when you achieve a certain level of fame for maybe small theater shows or even large theater shows, if you have that kind of an act. I don't have an arena act. I just performed in Lincoln, Nebraska at, I forgot what the name of it was, but it was one of the venues that Elvis played in '77, one of his last venues.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
I actually got to use his dressing room. That was kind of
That's
weird.
Not bad, yeah.
I wonder how much coke was on this counter.
Right, exactly. Just see if you can get some remnants.
Yeah, but it was just too big. I like the more intimate settings, which I guess that's what I have in common with a lot of stand-up comics, where they're close enough to the stage and packed in tight enough that where the laughter can just travel through the room real quick.
Yeah. Do you find that when you go play, do you tour a lot as a comic, or are you mainly stationary at the moment?
Mostly, just the Midwest.
Right.
I think of touring as like doing something nonstop,
Yeah. Well, then most comics don't tour. Let me ask you this, because one of the things that I've always said about comedy and why I've always sort of been a proponent of performing in more proper comedy clubs, rather than this notion, the romantic notion of, oh yeah, you just go wherever and wherever there's a stage and you just perform. And it's because I feel that comedy, unlike music, is more of an interactive thing. You need people kind of buying into it, paying attention. Otherwise it doesn't work. If there's anything that is more necessary as far as audience, attention, than comedy, it's got to be magic. I mean, you literally you can't do a magic trick, at an open mic where there's a football game on in a corner and people are drinking and talking. I'm sure you have, but I mean that's got to be. I mean, I'll stand up there and I'll just do whatever, my 10 minutes of silence and then get off stage. What do you do if you can't get anybody to kind of buy into what you're doing?
I don't know. I guess I've been pretty lucky. Maybe I'm forceful enough when I get up there that just kind of make people pay attention.
That's good.
Then I bring people up on stage from the audience, to help with whatever I'm trying to do. And I think that helps also because all of a sudden, one of us is up there on the stage in the spotlight with that weird guy who's sweating and grimacing a lot. Nathan, I think is his name. But with comedy, I mean, it's just a solo person, just a mic and a spotlight, and nobody else is up there, and you don't have that advantage, I guess. So yeah, I'm lucky.
So is that more intimidating to you? And I'm so you were saying that you sort of bring a comedic element into your show. Has that idea ever come to you? Just like maybe just try and ditch the magic tricks and just try and be funny up there, just tell jokes, or is that so far out of your comfort zone you're not interested?
Well, I think I'd like to, but it is out of my comfort zone right now. A couple of months ago, somebody after the show called me, was it 75% comedian, 25% magician?
Huh.
And one of my recent customers sent me a thank you letter and described the show as a stand-up comedy act with magic as a prop or a tool. I hope it was tool. Tool's a great word, but whatever. I don't know.
Better than
I think
prop.
I'd like to be a magician, so that's what matters, I guess.
And how long have you been doing this?
First paid gig when I was 12.
So pretty good.
I went through kind of the transitionary time, probably 2004, 2005-ish. When I started to get away from just the regular generic magic act and try to be more of who I am and insert more comedy into it.
Did you ever get shit like in high school and stuff like that? Was magic cool then?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah. Of course, I was the one doing it, so I had a huge perspective.
I thought it was fucking awesome.
I am so cool.
This is the coolest thing ever, probably. All right, no, like I said, I've heard the same things that you have heard, I'm sure, about magicians. Does that hurt you on some level? I know that you said that magicians are kind of an annoying bunch, so maybe maybe because what you do is a little bit different than just straight magic. But like on some level, does it bother you to be lumped in with the people that maybe do get criticized?
Yeah, there is a stigma with it, and don't get me wrong. I don't want to come across as a jerk talking bad about other magicians because many of them are my friends.
Right.
There's just a large element of magic that I just can't stand. But right away in the show, I think it's probably good for people to have those expectations, because then when I get up there and I do what I do, then all of a sudden I'm standing out.
Absolutely.
So I guess that's good. I mean, if everybody did what I did and thought the way I thought, that would suck. It wouldn't have anything fun.
Right.
But like right at the beginning of the show, I point out, every other magician, you would see a stage full of brightly colored boxes, and I'd be wearing a sparkly jacket. But I, on the other hand, am not a pedophile. So
I like that.
I don't
joke.
need that crap.
That's funny. I like that one. Well, so give me an idea of who you admire in the magic world.
There are quite a few. Those three that I named earlier.
Sure.
For all different reasons. Also Copperfield, of course,
Right.
big influence. Lance Burton, Kevin James, Jason Byrne, Jeff McBride. The list goes on and on. I should have had a list prepared for you.
Well, that's okay. No, like I said, I'm just kind of curious because as someone who sort of grew up, watching it on TV and thinking it was really cool, a lot of those names do sound familiar to me. Penn and Teller was, of course, one of my all-time favorites.
Oh, they're way up there. Yeah.
Right. Granted, they're sort of their own little, genre, but I kind of get the vibe that you're sort of the same way. You're carving out a new niche, which I think is good. Let me ask you this: how are magicians off stage? I've talked about how comics are off stage and why I don't often like hanging out with them at length. I find comics to generally be insecure and needy, and want to talk about themselves and their act constantly. And I have a podcast for that, so I don't need it, at the bar after a show. How are magicians after? Like, do you guys sit around and, I mean, granted, you often don't all perform together on one night, but if you do hang out with another magician, do you guys talk about do you talk about tricks, or illusions? I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude. Whatever the proper term is.
That's one thing I hate too, when the magicians try to pretend that what they're doing is real magic. Fuck that. It's just a trick, But it's fun to watch. You know it's a trick. I know it's a trick. Let's enjoy this.
Right.
Sorry, I snapped.
That's a good point. I think that's a very solid point. It's not actual magic. I think some people do believe they could do real magic.
I'm levitating right now. Feels like it. It's probably just the pills. But to answer your question, there are just a few. I can count them on one hand, magicians that I actually hang out with. I think most of them do, and they get together and they show each other the latest card trick that they just learned, or talk about the newest sparkly box at the magic shop, or what Chris Angel did last week that can't be accomplished in live performance settings, just on TV.
Just on TV with funny jump cuts. Sure.
Yeah. Well, you've read the reviews of this show out there, I'm sure.
It is
getting any better?
No, it is awful. It is quickly becoming the biggest bust in Las Vegas show history, which is a storied list of horrible ideas. But yeah, it is. First of all, he tried to combine magic with Cirque du Soleil in what could only be described as a debacle, because he's not a cirque performer. So he's doing these magic shows, and then there's all this homoerotic shit going on around him of dudes bending themselves and contorting themselves, and it's just it's not going well. Is he not very well respected in the magic community? Because I don't like him.
talk bad about the guy. He may very well be a decent human being, but I just don't like his style.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of magicians are kind of upset with the way he portrays magic on TV, doing these things, like I said, that quite honestly can only be done with camera cuts.
Right. And
forced camera perspectives. I mean, even he, by all accounts, can't live up to his own hype when he's performing live.
That's abundantly clear. What about David Blaine? He's another guy. Does he even do magic anymore? Now he seems like he just sits in small things. That's his new feats, which I'm not saying isn't hard, but is that really magic at that point if you're just sitting in a box?
Sits in small things. I like David Blaine a lot.
Do you?
He is very, very talented, and I like what he's doing with his physical, mental challenges too. I think that's pretty inspiring, to say the least. And he's actually good at magic.
Again,
he's actually do that shit live.
I was going to say I've never seen him live. He fucking blew my mind. The first time I ever saw one of his specials on TV, and I thought for sure it had to be fake. But I mean, I will take your word for it. If you say he can do that shit live, then I will believe you.
I would never lie to you. I'm a magician.
Absolutely. So I want to, tell everybody where they can go to catch your stuff. Maniacofmagic.com, Facebook.com/maniacofmagic if you want to check out what Nathan is up to, what he does. As I mentioned, a very professional website. I just want to reiterate that. Give an idea of what kind of things are people going to see if they go catch your show. Obviously, you're not going to see a kid's birthday party. It is magic and a show for grown-ups.
Yeah. The way I like to sum it up, card tricks and dick jokes.
Well, done. All right, I'm on board. If you get out here, I will sign me up for the front row. So this is a question that I'm excited to ask as we're wrapping up here. One of my favorite things to ask comics is hell gig stories. I forever could listen to people talk about the shittiest gig they ever did and just laugh every time. I want to throw it over to you. I know that you said that, when you get up there, you kind of coerce them, for lack of a better word, into getting on board with you. Tell me you have at least had one or two hell gigs in your day.
Oh, one or two is kind of an understatement.
Yeah?
Some of them I don't really even want to talk about. Give people the wrong impression of who I am, but I'm kind of accident prone. I was doing a straitjacket escape, and the show had been going great, but I got to the part where I contort my shoulder awkwardly and bring my arm up over my head and bring my head down to the side so I can get my arm up over it. And I don't know what I did, if I pulled a muscle in my neck, sprained something, but my head was like at a 45-degree angle, cocked off to the side, and I could not move it.
Were you able to escape?
Yeah, I actually got out.
Okay, good, because that's even worse.
The magician's been sitting up there for 63 minutes just drooling.
I was going to say, you get, like I said, you get stuck. You're in a straitjacket and you pull the muscle. That is a lose-lose situation right there.
Oh, yeah.
Because you still got to get out of the straitjacket.
Another time we were working in a small bar somewhere in Iowa, and where the stage area was where the pool table was before they moved it earlier that night. So there was this pool light hanging up there, and I thought we had raised it up enough that it was going to be out of the way. Mm-hmm. Well, I do this thing where I bring my right arm straight up above me, just fully extended, and I punched the light. Glass shattered. I am bleeding.
You're bleeding?
Oh, God, yeah. It was just blood running down my hand and down my forearm and dripping blood everywhere. So that was fun.
Do you politely excuse yourself to tend to your wounds when that happens?
No, I just pulled out an extra handkerchief and kind of wrapped it up and did some more things that I didn't need my right hand for quite as much.
Wow, there you go. And that's how you earn the name Maniac of Magic, everybody. Nathan, thank you for hanging out, man, and for having an honest conversation about your craft. Like I said, I'm a closet fan of magic. Just don't tell any of my comic friends. But
I'm a closet fan of comedy. Don't tell any of my magician friends.
Done. It sounds like we need to get together and see what happens. You ever make it out this way?
Not yet. I'm afraid once I do visit that I won't want to leave. So I'm just slowly getting rid of most of my possessions so I can fit everything into a couple of suitcases. And
there you go.
Head out there and stay.
Perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and then please kind of keep me posted. And I know you mentioned that there's something you have in the works that you can't really get into right now, but when it does sort of come to fruition and you're ready to promote it a little bit, I hope you'll think about coming back on the show, chatting a little bit.
I would love to if you'll have me.
Absolutely. All right. Take out Nathan Allen, everybody. Maniacofmagic.com, Facebook.com/maniacofmagic. Thanks, Nathan.
Adios.
There we go, Nathan Allen. That was fun, man. I liked talking to him. Liked hearing his point of view. Some of the stuff he was saying, I hadn't even really considered. I've always talked about how I thought it must be hard to be a magician because where does a magician go? That's why I think so many magicians end up in comedy clubs because there is no magic club. Where else are you going to go if you don't? But I thought his point about sort of creating material. It's one thing to, for a comic to take a hacky premise that you've heard many, many times before. It's another thing for a comic to go into a store and literally purchase a trick that anyone with $25 or whatever can purchase, and then pass that off as your act. So that, man, that's interesting. I don't know how you can sort of feel good about that as a performer. And that's why I think what Nathan does is cool. You know, he's like, well, look, the tricks are the tricks, but what I can do that other people can't do is make my performance as unique and personal to me as possible. And I have a lot of respect for that. So thank you, Nathan, again for coming on the show.